Admittedly, Bambietta is my favourite Quincy girl within the Sternritter, and I know that I am not the only one who thinks this. Sternritter E. The Explode Bambietta Basterbine is a volatile but charming young lady who seems to have a sadistic side that adds a fascinating layer of depth to her character. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down and analysing everything about her character, from all of the appearances that she has within the manga, as well as revealing what had happened to her after the end of the 1000-Year Blood War arc. Now, it would be rude of me not to reveal that I will be exploring Bambietta's infamous special relief scene, which is a popular point of discussion surrounding her character, so be sure to stick around until the end of the video, where I'll be revealing how a dodgy 1970s film on an evil Nazi lady had inspired Kubo to insert this special relief scene into the manga. This is really going to be difficult to explain without totally breaching YouTube's community guidelines, but hopefully it's going to be worth it. This video is nothing short of a deep dive into Kubo's mind, which has led me down some very strange rabbit holes, which thankfully will help us to better understand the character of Bambietta. So without further delay, this is my complete analysis on Bambietta, covering her many appearances, her powers, as well as her fights in the series. Bambietta makes her debut appearance within chapter 490 of the manga and in episode 3 of the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime. She is one of the first female members of the Sternritter division within the Wandenreich that we are introduced to. She of course is designated with a letter E as her shrift, standing for her ability called the Explode. Bambietta is a fan favourite bad girl who has won over the hearts of many fans for many reasons, including her unique and memorable appearance. She appears to be a young, attractive woman with long, wavy dark brown hair with brown eyes. Her eyes are very expressive, which reflects her unpredictable, explosive personality. She is seen to be wearing a standard Sternritter uniform with some variations, like her miniskirt, knee-high boots, and her signature white cap with gold lining and the Wandenreich emblem in the middle of it. She definitely stands out amongst the Sternritter when they are first introduced, and this can only be credited to Kubo's ability to create incredible character designs which complement the personalities of the respective character. Speaking of her personality, she is quite an unpredictable individual, especially with her volatile behavior and sadistic actions that she demonstrates throughout the story, like in chapter 495 during the first Quincy invasion, when we see her take a great deal of pleasure in mercilessly slaughtering the Shinigami. She has been seen to murder her own male subordinates, and this is after taking them to her private room for special relief. Of course, with this being such a memorable moment, I ended up doing some research about what Bambietta did to this man before killing him, because I'm a bit slow and totally not a simp. During my research, I stumbled upon some dodgy old movies that I'm betting that Kubo has definitely seen, but I'm going to be talking about this later on in the video, so be sure to stick around for it. Bambietta is without a doubt very charismatic, and she has a certain charm about her, which she definitely puts to use by taking advantage of others. Within chapter 557, we learn that Bambietta doesn't believe in continuing to fight someone if they have already given up. Bambietta is the self-proclaimed leader of a group of Sternritter called the Bambies, and there is nothing that she dislikes more than being abandoned by them, because this totally embarrasses her. This highlights that beneath that tough exterior, she is in fact very lonely. She definitely has her own set of abandonment and isolation issues, which we are made aware of through how she seeks validation by bossing around the Bambies. Some people have also speculated that Bambietta's true nature was able to shine through after she had been transformed into a zombie by Giselle. While in a zombified state, her personality is shifted to being submissive and fragile, highlighting that this could be a deeper subconscious side to a character. This duality that exists within a character definitely makes her an intriguing individual to analyze and understand. Now, unless the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime changes this, not much is known about the past of Bambietta, but I'm going to try my best to explain the nuances of a character by breaking down each of her chronological appearances within the present-day timeline of the Bleach manga. We are first introduced to Bambietta when she is seen with the other Sternritter gathering at the Gate of the Sun, in order to begin traveling to the Serite in order to begin the invasion of the Soul Society. In chapter 494, she is revealed to have dramatically arrived within the Serite after having created a pillar of blue reishi which surrounds her, and it eliminates any nearby enemies before she begins to engage in battle herself. It doesn't take long for her to begin slaughtering Shinigami Shinigami before she is suddenly stopped by Komamura, who is surprised to see that a little girl like her is fighting for the invading army. Bambietta responds by saying that she is equally as surprised that the Soul Society has hired a doggy as a captain. She thinks to herself that they must be desperate and understaffed. The 1000 Year Blood War arc anime expands upon this fight slightly, as we see them begin to fight as Bambietta fires a reishi bomb towards him, but Komamura cuts it in half. Despite this, it blows up anyway, and when the dust settles, Komamura appears and clashes with Bambietta. In chapter 496, Komamura's lieutenant Iba appears as he tells him that they need to figure out a way to break the seal that the enemy have placed upon their Bankai. Komamura ends up unleashing his Bankai, but Bambietta steals it with a medallion. After Komamura motivates several Shinigami around him to continue fighting, now that the head captain has arrived onto the battlefield, Bambietta is surprised by their change in resolve, because the Shinigami were on the verge of death just moments ago. In chapter 512, we see Bambietta surprised to sense the spiritual pressure of Ichigo when he finally arrives in the Serete. Now this is the last time that we see Bambietta during the first Quincy invasion, as she retreats with the other Quincy as they prepare for their final attack. In chapter 543, we see Bambietta gathered at a Wandenreich assembly, and she is surprised to see that Uryu is on the stage with Yhwach, and she expresses shock when he is appointed as his successor. In chapter 544, something unexpected happens involving Bambietta's character. She was involved in a lewd scene which has understandably become infamous amongst fans. Now there is a rich history as to why she does what she does here. However, before I dive into the inspiration behind her actions, let's break down this scene in particular and understand just why fans are obsessed with this moment. I'm praying that I don't get demonetized for this section because it's just a really bizarre, raunchy rabbit hole that stems from this one scene in particular. Now, Bambietta orders one of her underlings to follow her as she tells him to come to her room for what she describes to be special relief. She is very insistent, even ordering him to follow her this very second. The male soldier is seen to blush because he knows what special relief means, and surely some of you big brain viewers of my channel know what it means too. In the next panel, we see the soldier with his eyes rolling back, meaning that the special time has ended, but unfortunately he's been cut in two by Bambietta. Similar to a praying mantis, Black Widow, and even a jumping spider, she kills her male mate, and we see his blood splatters land on her face in the following panel. There are some hints that Kubo gives us as to what special relief had entailed, as the soldier had no clothing on the upper half of his body when he was killed, and we see Bambietta sigh and zip up her clothes to cover her chest. The Bambis then arrive and complain about the mess that she has made again, highlighting that she has a habit of relieving herself with attractive men and killing them whenever she is annoyed. And this is information that Candice's character confirms for us. The Bambis begin arguing amongst themselves, but Bambietta fires a hole into the wall behind them as she orders them to keep it quiet, because she has a lot on her mind right now. She reveals that she is worried about the future of the Wandenreich. This is of course because Uryu was appointed as Yhwach's successor. Now it's no secret that aspects of the Wandenreich have been inspired by the Nazi, including their military uniform, as well as how the elite group of Quincy are called the Schutzstaffel, which was the name of Hitler's personal bodyguard unit or his elite guard. Now these are pretty well known aspects of inspiration, but what if I told you that Kubo had drafted the character of Bambietta Basterbine after a subgenre of exploitation film called Nazi-sploitation. These films, created after World War II by Western directors, involved Nazis committing sex crimes against prisoners within the concentration camps during World War II. This entire genre of film features innocent captives being subjected to sadistic torture by their captors, who are often portrayed in these movies as attractive, dominant, and sadistic individuals who receive pleasure from the suffering of their victims. Now this description already fits well with Bambietta's character, and in particular her actions within chapter 544. I'm confident that Kubo had created Bambietta's character after being inspired by Nazi-sploitation films. In particular, one of the most infamous and influential films from this genre called Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS, which was released in 1974. Already looking at the character of Ilsa, you can see that she formed the foundation of Bambietta's character design, and her actions are definitely inspired by this character. Bambietta has several characteristics that align with the Nazi exploitation genre, like her dominant, attractive, and sadistic nature, and when she invites her male subordinates to her room, it mirrors what we see in these Nazi exploitation films. In Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS, the character Ilsa is a female Nazi officer who has a high level of lust for men, and she chooses chooses a new male prisoner each night in order to give her special relief, and this is similar to Bambietta. In the movie, Ilsa is hypersexual and she is visibly disappointed after her male victims relieve themselves too early, so she promptly kills them, and this is exactly what Bambietta does. So before I get demonetized, hopefully I've explained enough for you to see where the inspiration behind this infamous scene has come from. Genuinely, Kubo is a mad lad for having seen this movie from 1974 and having incorporated it into the Bleach manga. Now, it's important to note that while Bambietta's character exhibits traits associated with the Nazi exploitation genre, Bleach doesn't explicitly delve into the sexual and violent themes that are characteristic of this genre. Bleach, of course, is a mainstream shonen anime and manga which caters to a wider audience, and while it does explore dark themes and complex character dynamics, it does so within the boundaries of its genre. So it makes me wonder what on earth Kubo would draw if he was given full reign with a seinen series, because it's evident that he draws inspiration from a wide range of sources for his work, which really highlights his wealth of knowledge and understanding of various different aspects of art which have been inspired by real historical events. Also, before I end this dodgy section of this video, the character of Ilsa in these movies was inspired by the real-life Ilsa Kosh, a wife of one of the commanders of a concentration camp. Now, she didn't actually do anything lewd with her victims, but she was imprisoned for committing war crimes, which are a bit too violent to discuss in this video. She was a real nasty piece of work, and she had formed the foundation for inspiring these types of raunchy Nazi-sploitation films, where they had transformed her into a fictional, sadistic, hypersexual antagonist because sex sells. In chapter 554, Bambietta is first seen during the second invasion, as she complains about how the other Sternritter are getting too upset about losing their stolen Bankai. She just thinks that there is no point getting emotional over losing powers that were never theirs to begin with, calling her peers idiots. She complains about how her opponent Komomura isn't even here. She didn't even realize this until she had seen the stolen Bankai flying far away back to its original owner. She exclaims that she wishes that someone had told her earlier that he wasn't here, when she then notices that nobody is even there listening to her. This makes her really annoyed as she asks where on earth have they all gone. She's feeling pretty angry because she was talking to herself this entire time. She remembers that Lil Toto had told her that the four Bambis would stick together with her, but she is visibly embarrassed by the fact that she had been abandoned by them. She yells for them to show themselves, and in her anger she creates a large explosive sphere around her which destroys her surroundings. She says that she will remind the Bambis what happens when they embarrass their leader, intending to destroy the entire area just to smoke them out, but before she can do anything, Komomura finally appears, telling her to stop. She asks him why is it that he is wearing a bucket on his head, and he tells her that it was a gift. She tells him that she will take the bucket off of him later, as she questions isn't it a bit too early for the hero to appear, explaining that it would have been more dramatic if he had turned up after the Serite was destroyed. But then suddenly Shinji appears behind Bambietta as he tells her that they can't be dramatic heroes because they are not patient enough to wait for the Serite to be destroyed. Shinji immediately activates his Zanpakuto, Sakunade's ability, which inverts Bambietta's senses, as he asks her if she is feeling well. She appears to be disorientated as she tries to attack Shinji, but he tells her that it is impossible. Just as he is about to cut her down, Yuhabak awakens each of the Sternritter's holy forms. She says that she was unable to use this earlier, not while she was in possession of Komomura's Bankai, saying that it was in the way. She thanks the Shinigami for reclaiming their Bankai because without that she would have been unable to use this power. At the end of chapter 555, Bambietta's holy form is revealed as she attacks Shinji immediately. In this form she has large wings, even acquiring a halo above her head in the shape of the five-pointed Quincy symbol. Her holy form allows her to fly through the air thanks to the wings that she has, as she has improved physical durability as well as being able to use an enhanced version of her Quincy Shrift, the Explode. Shinji is hit by her enhanced ability and is instantly taken off of the battlefield. She belittles his Shikai ability, saying that it just messed up her sense of direction, like a cheap trick, as she calls his power lame. She explains that if she is unable to tell which way is up or down or left or right, then she will just destroy everything around her with her Shrift, the Explode. Several explosive orbs of Reishi are released from her wings towards Shinji, but Komomura protects him from her attack. Momo appears, suddenly charging towards Bambietta as she questions if she is Shinji's lieutenant or Komomura's. Momo ends up being saved by Komomura, who prevents her from being hit by Bambietta's Shrift. He tells her that she was reckless because the Sternritter's bombs cannot be blocked unless you are wielding a shield or wearing armor. Bambietta appears as she taunts him, him by saying that he sounds confident, like the bucket on his head is able to withstand an attack from her. She fires a bomb towards him as he thinks to himself that all explosives have a momentary pause between impact and detonation. With an armor that can negate the impact and a strong body to immediately turn it aside, he is able to deflect her explosives. After demonstrating this, Bambietta seems impressed. She reveals that he is correct. Her bombs cannot be guarded against. She explains that she is not firing bombs made of reishi, but rather anything that she fires her reishi into is transformed into a bomb. She fires a barrage of reishi towards Komamura and Momo, resulting in several explosions. She assumes that Komamura will have survived the attack and only his armor will have been destroyed, and she is curious to see what's under his armor. When the dust settles, she sees Komamura in his new human form, and she is surprised to learn that he is no longer a dog. He immediately activates his Bankai, as Bambietta is surprised to see the new appearance of his Bankai form. She is also taken aback when she realizes that there is no dog underneath the armor of his Bankai. She questions if a dog is lurking beneath the face of his Bankai. She fires reishi towards the side of the Bankai's head, which it blocks with its hand, which instantly detonates. The hand appears to be destroyed, but it heals itself, much to Bambietta's surprise, as she wonders what his Bankai has become. Komamura explains how this altered version of his Bankai works, as he confidently states that she cannot beat it. She tries to attack his Bankai again, but she is unsuccessful. Komamura explains that his Bankai is void of life, which is represented by its armor, so it no longer fears destruction. Bambietta states that she knows the secrets of his Bankai, reminding him that she was wielding it only moments ago. She explains that a Bankai is connected to its user. While his Bankai can heal itself, she doubts that he can. She fires her reishi into Komamura's chest as it explodes, revealing a hole in his chest where his heart should be. Komamura explains to her that his body now is a shell. It is a vessel here for the sole purpose of defeating her and the rest of the Quincy. He reveals that while he is in this human form, he cannot be killed. She is angered by his explanation, as she doesn't see the point in fighting if he is already dead. She fires more reishi towards his Bankai, but it proves to be ineffective. Komamura responds to her that the moment that he had stepped onto the battlefield, he had left his life behind, because he is staking his life against the enemy who head captain Yamamoto had lost his life to. He finally retaliates against her as his Bankai attacks Bambietta. Unfortunately for Bambietta, she is attacked at point blank range with so much force that it forces her explosives into her own body, and this happens so quickly that she is unable to deflect the explosives. Following the attack, we see her critically wounded as she falls to the ground. Bambietta is seen lying in the debris of the buildings as she struggles to accept that she has just lost to a Shinigami. Devastated that she was the first amongst the Bambis to have lost, she says that it is completely unacceptable, but then the four Bambis appear towering over her as they tell her that they will help her. Giselle says that they would be lost without her, but Bambietta looks afraid as she tells her not to do it, pleading with her. In chapter 589, we learn that Giselle had killed Bambietta after she was defeated by Komamura. In chapter 588, after Yumichika refers to Giselle as a man, she summons the zombified Bambietta, who fires explosives towards the Shinigami, as we learn that Giselle had revived Bambietta into one of her undead soldiers after having killed her. She orders her to destroy Yumichika and Ikkaku. In the following chapter, we see zombie Bambi fire multiple explosives towards the two of them, which they try to avoid before Ikkaku switches up his strategy by charging towards her, while Yumichika covers him by using Hado 57, which deflects Bambietta's explosions by surrounding Ikkaku with several rocks. He is able to get close enough to her to stab her, but she grabs his head and is about to detonate it, but Yumichika appears in time to cut off her arm, saving him from a nasty explosion to the face. Giselle explains to the two of them that Bambietta is already dead and there is nothing that they can do to kill her. Zombified Bambietta reappears and blasts the two Shinigami away. In chapter 590, after Mayuri appears, Bambietta is seen standing in front of Giselle as she tells her that she needs something belonging to her. Now, it's quite obvious what she is referring to, but I'll give you a hint if you're a bit slow. It's linked to Yumichika saying that she smells like a dude. Zombie Bambi seems very desperate for this thing, as she says that she cannot take it anymore and she needs it. Giselle tells her that she looks so desperate, calling her insatiable after having violently slapped her away. She lifts her head up by yanking her hair up, telling her that she will get her treat once the war is over. A teary-eyed Bambietta apologizes, telling her not to be mad at her, saying that she doesn't want to be punished and she is sorry. Now I think the quicker that we move away from this scene the better. Bambietta fires her bombs towards Mayuri, but he retaliates by having Nemu fire a device towards them that detonates when it is near Giselle and Bambietta. After the smoke clears, we see a severely burnt Bambietta who had taken the full force of the explosion in order to protect Giselle. She collapses to the floor as Giselle holds onto her, lifting her limp body up from her clothing. At the end of chapter 591, when Giselle is attacked by the 4 revived Arrancar, she reattaches Bambietta's arm, then orders her to fire her explosives towards the Arrancar Charlotte, who effortlessly evades the attacks, grabbing her face and launching her into a nearby building. Now poor zombified Bambietta cannot catch a break. After death, her body has been abused to a ridiculous level. I have to admit, it is really funny though, considering how bossy and overbearing she was while she was alive, in comparison to how submissive she is while in her zombie form. Bambietta emerges from the rubble, but Charlotte fires a Cero directly at her, and I really lost count as to how many times she has been hit with a big attack at this point. We see zombified Bambietta again in chapter 603 as we learn that she had survived the Cero blast. Unfortunately, her body is still unable to rest in peace because Giselle has dragged her into a cave and she begins to eat her flesh and drink her blood in order to heal herself. My god, I'm genuinely starting to feel sorry for her now. Being under Giselle's control is a relentless existence of non-stop abuse. While she is being munched on, she makes a perfectly reasonable request, telling Giselle, come on dude, don't take too much of my blood, because she doesn't want to die just yet. Giselle grabs her head and slams it into the ground, calling her dumb as she reminds her that she is already dead, asking how many times does she have to tell her, as she orders her to shut up and give back her blood. After having repeatedly slammed her head, she sees the lifeless look on her face and hugs her, telling her that she looks so cute when she's dead, then exclaiming how she loves her repeatedly. Now Bambietta's last appearance within the manga takes place in chapter 604 after Yuhabak activates Aswalen and steals the power from the Sternritter who are left behind within the Serite. Giselle grabs onto Bambietta's corpse, promising her that she is not going to die. Now I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but Bambietta's fate after the 1000-year Blood War arc is revealed within the Can't Fear Unworld light novels, as we find out that Bambietta did in fact survive after all of this constant abuse. We learn that she was rescued by Hashwald's aid and she is in fact still zombified, and she appears to be in Hueco Mundo during the events of the light novel. Wow, what a journey. Hopefully this video has helped you to better understand Bambietta's character. I've covered everything from all of her battles in the series, the abilities that she utilizes, and the sources of inspiration behind her character. I found it fascinating to speak about her tough outward demeanor, which is contrasted against the overly insecure, sensitive side that we see when she is embarrassed and while she is in her zombified form. Now we have reached the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. What are your thoughts about the fan favorite Quincy girl Bambietta Basterbine, a sadist who was inspired by some very dodgy evil Nazi lady from a 1974 movie? I look forward to reading all of your thoughts, and lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I cannot wait to see you in my next Bleach video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.